Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. This is my recap for the 2023 anime, A Returner's Magic Should Be Special. If you like my recaps, please consider subscribing. The story begins just after a battle has taken place and many casualties are scattered throughout the battlefield. A giant monster roams the land and is met by a group of warriors. Like most monsters, this one's able to speak without moving its lips and calls the humans before him foolish for thinking they could defeat him. We learn that shadow worlds represent the worst calamity humanity has ever faced, and they're steadily shrouding the world in black fog. There's no way of knowing what goes on inside that fog, but the one thing that is known is that no living creature can survive in the land that it taints. There is only one way to save the world, and that is by conquering the shadow worlds. One of the heroes bravely tells the dragon named Boromir that it's time to settle things once and for all. This guy is pretty confident considering there's a bunch of dead heroes around, as he tells Boromir that he will be the one to slay him and bring an end to this accursed hell. Boromir gets pretty upset, and that one guy that always points out the obvious yells out, "Here it comes." The "it" he is talking about is Boromir's fire breath, but my boy with the giant shield has it covered. Before the fireball can reach him though, it disappears as we see that our protagonist uses a spell to stop it, taking away Shield Guy's one opportunity to do something. Boromir prepares another attack that's even more powerful, but our protagonist digs deep and stops that one too. His name is Desser, and he loudly states that his magical pattern analysis is complete. He has sealed every draconian spell. The humans go on the offensive, but Boromir is insulted that the impudent humans think they can stand in his way. He uses his tail to attack this time, and Shield Guy finally gets his chance to shine as he blocks the attack. The warriors jump in to do some damage, and the mage hits him too. Seeing as how this is the battle to end all battles, the mage decides to use up every last bit of magic they have to power up their female warrior. Desser encourages her with his battle cry, and she lands the final massive blow. Boromir screams out in pain as he is in utter disbelief that things are ending this way. Everyone celebrates, and Captain Obvious speaks up again to say a single word: good. Desser is amazed by their great accomplishment and is glad that they can get out of this hell. Sometime later, the group celebrates, but one of them points out that they haven't received a message from the higher-ups and wonder if they defeated the wrong target. Mr. State the Obvious says that Boromir was definitely the right target, but the others point out that they would usually be sent back to their world by now. Desser doesn't mind giving it some more time since everything is over now. Spirits are high, but the mage ruins it, as he points out that out of the 155 million people who fought him, only 6 of them survived. The mood shifts dramatically as Desser begins to think about how this world took far too much from him. Comrades he fought alongside and irreplaceable friends. The hippie of the group brightens things up by pointing out that they defeated Boromir and tries to change the subject. The mage explains that they can't look away from reality and 99% of the mages died. He wants to think about what's to come, but the hippie tells them that they should pray first. Desser calms everyone down, so the religious hippie just compliments Shield Guy for his sweet blocking skills. He is too humble though and gives all the credit to Desser. The mage marvels at how Desser was able to analyze and seal Boromir's spells with his circle, since not even he has such power. The mage points out that even with all that power Desser has, he was completely unknown, and he asks him how that could be. Desser explains that it's because he is just a commoner. The mage thinks that's a complete shame, since if he had been at the magic tower, he would have made our boy a beast. They then go around talking about what they will do when they get back home. One guy wants to visit his dead friends' homes to return their keepsakes, because something about honorable deaths. The hipster is apparently the purest human being ever, as she just wants to return to the kingdom to take care of the victims' families and build a memorial. The mage wants to find a way to prevent a reoccurrence of shadow worlds, since if a similar one appears, it really will be the end of humanity. The warrior who actually ended the fight doesn't say a word, and rudely just ignores the question. The others wonder if Desser will be returning to Hebrion Academy, and he thinks about a girl he once knew who would eventually die in battle. Desser states that he hasn't decided and just wants to get back home first. Just then they all sense something and realize that it isn't over yet. They don't understand the magic power they are feeling, and the mage is shocked as he is sure they killed Boromir. He quickly realizes something though. He explains that he once read that dragon hearts don't only pump blood, they also store and circulate vast amounts of mana. When the dragon dies, the blood stops and the stored mana with nowhere else to go explodes. Our shield hero steps forward, getting another chance to prove useful, and tells the mage that he wishes he would have mentioned that information sooner. Although he is clearly to blame for literally everything, the mage has an excuse as this is the first time in history that humans have defeated a dragon. The sky fills with light radiating from the mana-filled corpse, and Desser is shocked when his spell doesn't work. The mage points out that it's hopeless. They're up against a pure ball of magic power, and even under perfect conditions, they wouldn't be able to stop it. Everyone begins to prepare for their lives to end, and Desser wonders if this is really it. His life since the beginning of the episode flashes before his eyes, and Desser finds himself somewhere else completely. He is wearing normal clothes and can't figure out what's going on. He hears applause in the distance, and a woman welcomes all the new students to Hebrion Academy. Desser remembers her as Professor Birgit, and she explains to the students that not everyone can be enrolled. Instead, they will all take a test, and only the top 600 will be accepted. Desser seems to know exactly what she's going to say, as she shockingly states that their test is to clear a shadow world. The students grumble in fear as that is far too dangerous, but Birgit tells them not to fear. The test shadow world is an artificial one created for the purpose of the test. As she speaks, Desser begins to realize something, but can't believe it. Birgit then states that they will now begin the entrance exam for the year 3613, confirming what Desser feared. He explains that the battle against Boromir started in 3616, and for the next 10 years they fought in that dungeon, and everything was destroyed. He collapses as he wonders what the point of it all was. Somehow, without pinching himself, Desser knows that it's not a dream, as he can clearly remember everything. Just then, a way too angry girl tells him that she was looking for him. She introduces herself as Ladoria and tells Desser that she will be his mentor. Desser searches his memory to find that Ladoria is a genius of a mage who wields fire magic, and she placed first in the academy rankings. She is shocked to learn that Desser is a commoner, and points out that even if he passes the test, he will be placed in the beta class. This school is apparently really big on discrimination. It puts nobles into the alpha class and commoners into the beta class. Even if you have talent, you can't receive a proper education if you're a commoner. They head inside and Ladoria wonders why Desser isn't more amazed by the school. Desser tries to say he has seen a similar building before, but she points out that there is no facility like it. Just then, the two are met by Elheim the water mage, and Desser remembers that Ladoria doesn't get along with him. The two mages throw insults at each other for a while. Elheim mocking how short she is and Ladoria pointing out how annoying he is. Ladoria reminds him that she beat him in a fight before, but he says that he just let her win. Elheim is impressed by Desser's manners for sitting quietly, but has a good laugh at Desser's expense when he finds out that he is a commoner. He says that he won't be competition for him and tells them to look forward to the test. Before he leaves, he gives Desser a word of advice. He states that even if Desser gets lucky and passes the test, he will end up in the beta class, so he might be better off not taking it. Just then, students are called to begin the test, and we see that Ladoria is all fired up and demands that Desser pass. As they head to the test, Desser becomes more and more sure that he is in the past. This being the case, he looks around and is relieved to see that someone isn't there. However, just then, a girl calls out to him and asks him to stop looking around so much since he looks dumb. Desser is in utter disbelief to see that it's Romantica, the girl he had memories of. Desser has no clue why this happened, but determines that the reason doesn't matter. He won't let a certain tragedy repeat itself, and he vows to rewrite the history of the world. Desser calls out to his long-lost friend, but this is well before they knew each other, so Romantica asks the weirdo how he knows her name. Desser explains that he simply saw her name on the screen, and they are in the same testing group. She wishes him luck as she leaves, but Desser can only think about how she has no idea how devastated he was to lose her. Our time-traveling hero composes himself though, and promises to never let her go through such a terrible ordeal ever again. The first test is a race in the beginner level of the Shadow World. The Shadow Worlds at the school are safe since they don't want to get sued by Karen parents, so even if students receive damage, they can evacuate immediately. Desser is surprised that they can still take damage, and Elheim arrives to explain that the use of magic and attacks toward participants is allowed. This dude continues his villain arc as he tells the pair that it will be impossible for Desser to pass the test. Elheim then introduces the person he is mentoring named Dazest, a magic knight. Our time-traveling protagonist knows her well as she is a magic knight of ice, and a high-circle mage who can wield vision magic, which is impossible to inverse. She is better with the sword than most pure knights, and she ends up being his most reliable teammate. Ladoria and Elheim argue a bit more, but this dude somehow always gets a last laugh, leaving Ladoria in fumes. She tells Desser that his odds against a magic knight are pretty bad, but urges him to not give up. Desser's group is called to begin testing, and they all enter the Shadow World. They will be aiming for the goal right in front of them, and only the top 3 will pass the test. They are allowed to use magic attacks, interference, and any other methods necessary to win. If a student receives fatal damage, they will be disqualified. Desser should probably be focusing on the test, but he's too distracted by his zest. She was there in the future when the world ended, so he wonders if she too has come back to this world with past memories. She surprisingly knows his name, but it's only because she checked before the test. Azez completely roasts our boy for having below average physical abilities and ruthlessly tells him that he has no future. She couldn't help but notice that he has an eye problem as he has been staring at her, but she assures him that he has nothing to worry about since she has no interest in attacking the weak. She is clearly not friendly, so Desser determines that she is not his loyal teammate from the future. The race begins and Azez takes off like she stole something, leaving everyone in her dust. Romantica follows after, but slows down to apologize to some little furball for bumping into it. Desser gets right to simping as he points out how she must still like stuff like that, but she has no clue what this guy means by still, and she wonders if he's making some terrible attempt to hit on her. She gets pretty annoyed by how he's acting like they are friends and tells him to focus on the race. The simp just can't help himself though, as he has missed interacting with her so much. She gets even more mad to hear these words, but is shocked when Desser saves her from a random fireball. Some dude is pretty upset that Desser is butting in on his attack on Romantica and uses his fire rod to attack. Romantica can defend herself though and takes this fool out. His name is Eggs and his disqualification is announced to everyone. Romantica thanks Desser for saving her, but instantly gets annoyed again by his dumb-looking face. The two of them are falling pretty far behind, so Romantica decides to show him her true abilities as she uses her arrow sweep spell. Elsewhere, some higher-ups tell Jesus with a ponytail that everything's going smoothly. They are particularly amazed to have a Magic Knight participating this year, and they marvel at how well she conducts herself. They all have a good laugh though when someone points out that a weak commoner is in the same group as the Great Magic Knight. They all pity the poor kid, but one chick seems to know something as she stares pretty hard at Desser. A guy following Azez is confident that all he will have to do is continue following her to pass, but is then shocked by Romantica's powerful wind. It's not strong enough to blow him away, but he can hardly move. Just then, he is shocked as Azez easily slices her way through the wind. This absolute idiot spends way too much time drooling over this girl and ends up getting a hug from Mother Nature courtesy of a giant tree. There was another guy next to him that got eliminated as well, so there are now only 3 participants left. Romantica smiles as this means they're all going to pass, but this chick is out for blood and tells Desser to just drop out. Desser wonders why, and her reason is simple: his disgustingly stupid face. She praises herself for warning Desser so that he doesn't get hurt and gives him one last chance to drop out. Romantica anticipates his surrender, but is shocked when he refuses. She can't believe he won't quit even after seeing her magic and gets furious when Desser simply smiles again. She has had enough of this annoying guy and she promises to hurt him so bad that he will think that he's going to die. She unleashes her powerful wind strike and says later to the dweeb. She is stunned though when Desser compliments her attack and sees that he is totally unharmed. Our boy is insane as not only did he survive, he's now pointing out how she prioritized speed in her attack, and that is why her control is so weak. Clearly not caring about how much he annoys her, Desser recommends a slight adjustment to her attack, and she completely blows up. Romantica prepares another attack that she guarantees won't miss, and unleashes her Venom Wind. Desser really gets to showing off now as he does that thing where he explains what he is doing while doing it. He simply changes the air currents a little and forces her attack to miss. She is shocked to see him use an inverse spell, since usually someone has to be at a much higher level, or a circle as they call it, to be able to use an inverse spell. This should be impossible for Desser to do since he is the lowest circle, so she decides to test him again. Desser simply just blows up her attack this time, and Romantica begins to lose her mind as she wonders if this means that his skills are higher than hers. The tables have completely turned now as our boy confidently says that they should finish up now. There are others he needs to defeat so he can't stay for long. He's getting too close for comfort, so Romantica tests to see if he can inverse a whole bunch of spells this time. Desser easily stops all of them and thinks about how Romantica is very powerful, but not powerful enough. This won't do since at this rate, they will simply repeat the same future where she met her demise. He is determined to make her stronger, so that is why he must be the one to win right now. Desser asserts his dominance like a boss and tells Romantica that inversing spells is not the only thing he can do. She is surprised to see him use a basic spell that erases friction and wonders why he would do that. Desser then shockingly reveals that she is actually not the one he has been fighting this entire time. The last thing he tells her is that they are not being tested on magic skills, they're being tested on who can reach the goal. Things start to become very clear as Desser explains that even if they receive fatal damage there, they won't die. Romantica begins to realize what this absolute genius of a man is planning to do, but points out that while he might not die, he will still take damage. Our boy ain't afraid of no damage and uses a fire spell to rocket himself at light speed. Romantica thinks he might be crazy, but it's really just a Riz King at work. Near the goal, Azez enjoys a comfortable lead, but can instantly tell Desser will soon pass her. She has no clue how he defeated Romantica, but decides that she will have to defeat him with all she's got. She prepares an immense attack, so our boy completes an analysis on every link spell she is using. This allows him to obtain control over the entire attack, but Azez realizes he is inversing them, and decides that she will have to end the fight before he takes them all. She instantly attacks with the ones that haven't been taken, but Desser manages to alter their trajectory. Azez sees that he just managed to dodge the fatal blow, and determines that she just won't give him time to inverse her spell. She combines her spells for her next attack, and Desser agrees that she is making the right decision. Unfortunately for her, our boy is a beast, and adjusts the attack's trajectory mid-flight. She is then shocked as he uses the blowback from the attack, combined with his lack of friction to launch himself again. Azez prepares an attack, but Desser explains that she's too hung up on defeating him, and he just blows right by her. Desser is announced the winner, but that practically means nothing to him. Our time traveler looks at his friends, and can only think about how they all, including himself, need to get stronger. It's the only way they can overcome the tragedy. Elsewhere, we see that a guy wearing a pretty dumb looking ring has just defeated a bunch of students, and is announced the winner of Group F. His name is Dante, and he stares at our boy's girl while giving her a creepy smile. Elsewhere, those in charge of the school discuss how, as expected, there will be no commoners in the Alpha class again this year. All these people discriminate pretty hard against commoners, as they say that the Alpha class is only for nurturing the chosen ones, and commoners should just be happy that they get to enroll in Hebrion Academy. The top old man, who looks like he's never shaved in his entire life, silences them, and reveals that there has been a recommendation that a certain student be placed in Alpha class. It was Professor Bridget, and she confidently recommends Desser. Later, students check to see which class they have been placed in, and Desser sees that he is in Beta. However, what he is really concerned about is Romantica, as she is in complete shock. Moments later, we see that Romantica is pretty depressed by her rundown surroundings. The professor explains that skills of mages are ranked in circles. The lowest circle is 1 and the highest circle is 7. To be in the Alpha class, a student must be at least Circle 2. All the students in this class are as low as it gets at Circle 1, and their skills are not good enough for real shadow worlds. Romantica thinks that being in the Beta class is bad enough, but things are only made worse by her being in the same class as Desser, who irritates her to no end. She wonders why Desser is even there since he beat the Magic Knight, and is annoyed out of her mind when he just keeps on smiling. We then see that Bridget wasn't able to get the other professors to agree to have Desser put in the Alpha class. They are all nobles, so they strongly oppose the idea. Desser is furious not just for himself, but for all the talented commoners that are being ignored because of the discrimination. Desser decides that he must awaken as many talents as possible, no matter what it takes. Later, Romantica keeps doing her depressed thing, and that dude Dante approaches her. He is in the Alpha class and is planning to join Blue Moon, the best party in the academy, made up of the top students of the Alpha class. This rizzed up jerk came to invite our boy's girl to join as well, since she has excellent skills and perfect lineage. Romantica knows she must say yes since it will also get her into the Alpha class, but then this dude tells her that she will have to go out with him. She points out that this is their first time meeting, but this smooth talker tells her it was love at first sight. Romantica needs time to think, but this pushy dude gives her a gift that in his hometown is given to someone they are in love with. Romantica can hardly speak after that display of Riz, and is shocked when Desser appears behind her. Desser explains that he is there to make the same offer to her, but she declines to go out with him. Desser clears things up by pointing out that he actually meant he wanted her to join his party. It's pretty clear that she's going to pick the best party in the school over his, but Desser thinks about how that was the biggest mistake she ever made in the future. She tells our boy to beat it, so he leaves her a letter meant to be read when no one is around. Romantica mocks him for probably writing embarrassing stuff in it, but he tells her to get rid of it after she reads it, since it's for her own good. A quick read wipes the smug smile off her face, and she becomes furious, and Desser, who's long gone at this point, knew he would press her buttons. Desser then spots some blue-haired kid named Pram, and he is glad to have finally found him. Desser explains that among the warriors who participated in the battle before his time travel, Pram was one of the fastest swordsmen. He was the strongest in a timeline where he barely had any training, so Desser can't imagine how much stronger Pram can be if he gets some training this time. Just then, Romantica arrives upset that Desser seems to know some secret about her, but he tells her to quiet down to watch her practice. Romantica can't believe how adorable Pram is and wants to own him like a pet or something. Pram picks a weapon that shocks her pair since they wonder if he can really wield a great sword. Pram properly introduces himself, but his opponent refuses to speak to the Beta class scum. The practice fight begins and Mullet Man is instantly surprised by Pram's abilities. Romantica thinks Pram is pretty strong, but Desser knows that he is just swinging his sword around blindly. Mr. Business in the front, Party in the back fights back with a relentless attack, but Desser knows and anticipates a counter from Pram. Desser sees that Pram is going too soon as the redheaded mullet dodges and ends up countering him instead. The redhead named Percival is announced the winner, but he is unsatisfied with just that. He begins to wail on the poor kid while the useless referee just watches, so Desser jumps into action. He points out that the match is over, but Redhead threatens him too. Desser has a smart mouth on him as he asks Percival if he was upset that Pram's attack hurt him too much, or if he's just jealous of someone who's more talented than him. Desser manages to push every single one of this dude's buttons, causing him to attack out of control, but Desser blocks it with his arm. Desser once again reminds him that he won the fight, but frighteningly asks him what else he could want. Percival leaves but tells Desser that he will remember his face. Pram patches him up and Desser explains that he used magic to block the sword, so it didn't do much damage. Pram apologizes but Desser explains that he was the one that chose to jump in. Pram points out that Desser now has an enemy in the Alpha class because of him, but again Desser says it's fine and he must tell Romantica to calm down because this girl's obsessing way too much about Pram's adorableness. Pram thanks Desser for rescuing him and promises to return the favor. Desser then takes Romantica somewhere they can talk in private, and he must calm her down by saying that he hasn't told a single soul about what he knows. However, he reveals that the professors know about it, which is why she was dropped to the beta class, even though she's a noble with amazing skills. Desser then puts it all out there as he knows that Romantica has the blood of a commoner, and her parents actually just bought the title of noble. The professors knew this and just think of her as another commoner piece of garbage. Romantica is certain that Dante will protect her if she joins their group, but he reminds her about how Dante called commoners filthy lowlives. Desser recommends that she join his party instead, and she becomes furious. She thinks he will tell everyone her secret if she doesn't join, and points out that he is a terrible person for blackmailing her. Our boy isn't a piece of garbage though, as he would never do that, and he simply says that if she doesn't join, then he will just have to start his party with Pram alone. Romantica's imagination runs wild with thoughts of the adorable kid, but she still struggles with her decision. She still thinks that Desser's pretty sketchy for smiling all the time and for knowing her secret. He acted super recklessly during the test and was somehow able to defeat the Magic Knight. On top of all that, he is somehow able to use the inverse spell even though he is at the lowest circle. After giving it some thought though, she decides to join his party, but mostly so she can uncover his secret. Romantica still hates his smile with every fiber of her being, but the two shake on their agreement. We then watch as Pram takes a good hard look at a strange looking sword. His mother handed him the sword that was left to him by his father, and explained that as long as the sword shined bright, it meant his father would be thinking of them forever and ever. The second this poor kid touched it though, it fell to pieces. Luckily for him, that part was just a dream. Later, the new trio head to see Bridget so they can apply to form a party. They enjoy some snacks, but it's soon time to get right to business. This chick grills Desser about why he wants to form a party, so he simply explains that he plans to get promoted to the Alpha class by winning the ranking tournament. Bridget points out how hard that is, but Desser is already well aware. She explains that the ranking tournament is an exam to determine the ranks of students in each grade. It's conducted with the Alpha and Beta classes together, and eligibility to participate requires a party of 3 to 6 members. The exam takes the form of a battle between two parties, and the winning party's ranks go up. This doesn't mean that parties with more members have an advantage though, since individual achievements are assessed. There are plenty of ways to earn rank, since the key is how much a student has contributed to the victory of their party. The objective of the ranking tournament is to assess the various skills of the students. The winning parties will participate in the final rounds that take place in a shadow world. Those who place within the top 9 are given the title of single rankers. Single rankers are able to advance from Beta class to the Alpha class, however not a single person has ever been promoted before. This is no surprise to Romantica since the Alphas have such a huge advantage, and she is certain that it will be a one-sided tournament. Bridget explains that it's practically impossible, but Desser shocks everyone when he says that is why it's worth doing. The professors all think that Betas aren't worth teaching because they have no talent, so if all 3 of them in their party can become single rankers, then it would prove the professors all wrong. Bridget hopes that they can overthrow the horribly prejudiced system at the school and asks Romantica and Pram if they are certain they want to join Desser's party. They do, so afterwards the 3 of them walk by an amazing top-of-the-line practice facility. Unfortunately, it's only for the Alpha students, so they head to the Beta students' practice facility. It's just a normal room, in fact it's worse than that since it's practically falling apart. Covered in dust with the floor creaking, but our always positive protagonist is sure it will grow on them. Unfortunately, they find that they have a ton of roommates as hundreds of rats run back into their hole. Desser's plan is to clean the dump up, but Romantica is not a fan of the rats. Desser says he will take care of it, so Romantica admires him for going to find another room, but he reveals that his real solution is just to plug up the rat holes. They have no other choice, so they just clean the place up. They do an amazing job, but Romantica is distraught. Desser says that it's time to get going, so Romantica assumes that he means head home to get all washed up, but he actually means to start training. She instantly regrets joining his group, but remembers her goals. She heads for the door, but Desser points out that the training room is in the other direction. Training starts off with Desser training Romantica to improve the accuracy of her magic. She explains that she already has that in the bag, as she shows off by firing several wind attacks right at the target. She is pretty proud of herself, but Desser wants her to have all of the attacks hit the center. She thinks it's impossible, but he explains that it's the only way they can beat the alphas. He is confident she can do it, and thinks back to the future when she proved it in battle. Desser antagonizes her by saying she could keep cleaning if she wants to instead, so she gets motivated to wipe that smile off his smug face. To help with her training, Desser has her try to put a ball in a circle, and he has to tell this silly girl that she can't just throw it. She's supposed to manipulate the air current around the ball to move it. Wind magic is her specialty, so he just reminds her to visualize it. She does just that, and Desser's amazed that she got the hang of moving the ball in her first try. He encourages her to keep going, and she's just glad to have gotten a compliment. Pram is eager to learn about swordsmanship, but Desser reveals that there's nothing he can teach him. Shockingly, Desser says that Pram has perfected his craft as a swordmaster, and he should be strong enough to win the ranking tournament as he is now. Pram is sure that isn't true, especially just after Desser had to save him, but Desser knows Pram's true potential. Pram's amazing display of strength in the future is something Desser will never forget. He points out that Pram should be using a much lighter sword, specifically a rapier. Pram is clearly upset and hesitates to tell Desser why he doesn't use the more ideal sword for his style. Desser points out that it concerns the strength of their party, so Pram asks him to go with them somewhere. They leave Romantica, but she's doing just fine on her own. They arrive at Pram's room, where he reveals that he has no clue what his father looks like, since his father went to get the milk a long time ago. His mother was a commoner, and his father was a noble. The only thing his father left behind was a rapier sword. When Desser sees the sword, there's no doubt in his mind that it's the one Pram used back in the future. It's insanely light, and Pram explains that after learning that his father left it to him, he instantly started on the path of the sword. That way, when he eventually saw his father, he would be a respectable son fit to wield the sword. One day, his mother was on her deathbed and told Pram to never try to see his father since he lives in a completely different world than they do. She never even told Pram his father's name. In this world, having a child who is a commoner is a disgrace for a noble. If Pram had visited his father, he wouldn't have lived to be there now, so his mother was just protecting him. Pram explains that he still desperately wanted to find his father, so he joined Hebrion Academy in the hopes of getting some clues. He explains that he had the Sword of Praise to help him find his father, but he becomes furious, and reveals that he was told that the sword has absolutely no value. It was not something worthy of a noble man. Pram breaks down as he thought his father loved him, and that's why he left the sword, but that clearly isn't the case. So Pram refuses to ever use that sword again. The next day, everyone is hard at work practicing. Romantica is easily dropping the ball in the circle and is proud to have mastered it in just 3 days. Desser is quick to rain on her parade though, as he points out that the ball isn't staying in the circle. Desser strangely stares at her while thinking about the gift she got and comes up with an idea. He asks Pram to show him the rapier sword, but Pram says that he doesn't care about that sword anymore, and so he can't show him. Desser pleads with him, but Pram shockingly says that the reason he can't show him is because he sold it. We then get a quick look at a shop where a couple of menacing looking guys are in possession of Pram's sword. Thanks for watching the first few parts of this recap. Subscribe and ring the notification bell for future parts.